Hi, I'm John Ford from the American Gem Trade Association, and this is Kitt from the Arkenstone. And we want to welcome you to AGTA Seminar Series, A Conversation on Color. We have a distinguished panel. Ladies, would you like to tell us all something about yourselves?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Collins Colored Gems. This marks my 30th year as a colored gemstone dealer. I sell both loose as well as a finished jewelry line. I'm also former president of AGTA, and I'm proud to be part of this panel.
And I'm Valerie Naifeh with Naifeh Fine Jewelry, located in Oklahoma City and Sun Valley, Idaho. I've had my retail store for 27 years. I actually started as a bench jeweler, working with a lot of color as a model maker, and I love selling color.
Hi, I'm Tracy Lindwall. I work for a company called Nomad, based in New York. We are gem cutters focusing on high-end material and excellent cutting. We work with all types of gemstones, and I love them.
And so I specialize in natural crystals, but that means that I also get to spend all of my time around color. So I love that you're colored gemstone dealers. Can you tell me a bit about how you each started in color and what your favorite thing is about specializing in colored gemstones and jewelry?
Ooh, Tracy, you should kick us off.
Oh, that is a great question. I actually studied gemology in Thailand, and there I was able to just really explore the world of colored gemstones. What I love about it is that I'm constantly learning something new because there's always a new find. There's always new material coming out, so it's really engaging. It's really fun.
Oh gosh, my journey was very organic. As I said, I was in college, I was 19. I thought I was going to be an architect, and then I had this crazy opportunity to be an apprentice bench jeweler with a woman who was going to Thailand and Hong Kong buying gemstones. And I was very fortunate. After a few years, she started taking me, and the rest is history. I just love the business. I love color. I love what you say about there's always something new. There's always something new to learn. And just being able to spend time in some of those primary gemstone markets overseas really whet my appetite. And so from the time I started my retail company, color has always been a big focus of what we sell. And we also design and manufacture jewelry and do a lot of custom work for our clients. And color plays a big part in all of that.
So 30 years ago, I had an opportunity to step on a plane and go live with a family friend in Nairobi, Kenya. And that launched my career, starting with East African gemstones, specializing in tanzanite, rhodolite, tsavorite, garnets. I fully immersed myself, and that led to interest in other gemstones, going to Brazil, learning about tourmaline, going over to Asia and learning about the copious amounts of stones that come from the Asian countries over there. And here I am 30 years later. I still absolutely love what I do. I'm passionate about color. And as Tracy said, every day you're learning something new.
We're very fortunate to have these unique perspectives. Now, right now, what I'd like to direct the panel to do is tell us what you see the trends in color currently. Kim?
So the trend on the forefront, John, the first thing that popped into my mind is color for bridal. Every single day in my office, I get a call from retailers that are needing colored gemstones for their center stones for bridal. That shift has been away from diamonds and more towards color focus because I think my feeling is there's been a lot of industry issues with diamonds and labs, and I think it's a sure thing. And I also think that color can tell a story a lot better than diamond for a lot of people. For example, I get a lot of calls for a gemstone that looks exactly like the eye color of the bride-to-be or her fiance. I love that. It's so romantic. And there's just all different reasons why people love color. I sold a Podparasha sapphire because it's the most rare variety of sapphire. And it's because it's the bride's favorite color, that peachy pink, just dreamy color that she gets to look at on her hand every single day. So I'd say that for me is the strongest trend in my 30 years, where 30 years ago, there was no calls for color. It was always the right hand ring or the earrings. And now it's the main focus in a jewelry wardrobe. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think to your point, there is a lot of confusion right now, especially, well, there's just confusion with consumers with natural diamonds and lab diamonds. And sadly enough, we've just seen the value of natural diamonds kind of plummet with the input of lab-created diamonds coming onto the market. And consumers really want something where they know the value. It's also safe these days to be different. When I first started in the industry, everyone wanted a diamond for their engagement ring. But we're seeing a lot of people come in now wanting emerald, wanting sapphire of all different colors. A lot of people don't even know that sapphire comes in a rainbow of colors, and we have some really wonderful examples to show you today. Sapphires are very hard, and so you can wear them with confidence. Yeah, emerald, sapphire, but then we also have people come in with their Pinterest and their Instagram photos. And so we have set things like moss agate. We recently did a black opal engagement ring for a client, and it turned out beautifully. We just made sure to put extra prongs around it. So the sky's the limit. And a lot of times as a retailer, you will also have people bring in family heirlooms. And sometimes instead of a diamond, they might have a really beautiful ruby, sapphire, emerald, garnet, and they might be in love with the color and want to use that in their engagement ring. And so we see a little bit of everything. And I always try to make sure that we have several examples made up in our bridal case with center stones that are color. And that way, people can really see how that translates and how it looks with a wedding band.
That's fabulous. No, I think the part about standing out and being unique is really important. With color, you can show your personality. It doesn't have to be, all white diamonds. You can do, honestly, any color of the rainbow in tourmaline, in garnet, sapphire. Let's not forget about spinel, too. That's definitely got an upward trend. Spinel comes in a fabulous range of colors, from pink to red, even gray, lilac, lavender. It's also a very hard stone and great to wear. So we're seeing, it's a fun way to show your personality and to be unique by wearing color.
So we went through some of the inventories, and luckily we have women who have massive stashes, and then we pulled a couple things from the Arkenstone as well. Since you mentioned sapphires, I feel like a lot of people don't understand how many colors sapphires come in. They think of sapphire and it's blue. So can we pull out some of the sapphires that we've assembled and help show people just how varied sapphire can be?
Sure, let's start with sapphires. We have a gorgeous array of colored sapphires here. I brought finished jewelry. Tracy and Kim brought loose stones as well as finished jewelry. So Kim, why don't you kick it off and tell us what we're looking at here? Why don't we start with this loose tray?
All right. So these gemstones here are all sapphire. Most people in the industry know that, but end consumer is not familiar with all the range of colors. Here is your classic blue sapphire that most people are familiar with. In fact, sapphire is the second most purchased gemstone outside of diamonds. So the first most popular colored gemstone. However, the fancy colors, which is anything but blue, are really only slowly emerging, and a lot in bridal as well. We have pink sapphire, orange. We have pale green, podparasha sapphire, which is the most rare variety. What I call cornflower blue, the industry calls it cornflower blue, which is a little softer than the royal blue sapphire.
And most of those come from Sri Lanka, don't they?
Yes, the majority. A lot of the greens and teals come from Madagascar, but primarily the majority of sapphires come from Sri Lanka. And then you have something like this rainbow sapphire necklace. Let's see, we have two here layered together, but there is one in particular that is all the color of the rainbow. And you could see it's an ombre of every shade, every color, and that is really special.
I love the way that these are set. It's so dramatic, and yet they're set in such a modern, clean way. you can wear them day to evening just so beautifully. And that's another thing. I think a lot of people used to consider that colored gemstones were so formal, and they really aren't. You can wear them all the time.
Especially with a stone like sapphire, it is hard. It is a 9 on the hardness scale, which means that it's resistant to scratching. So it's something that you can wear with a little bit more ease, and it's really durable. It holds up over time.
Great for daily wear, for a right hand ring, for whatever you want.
And the nice thing about sapphire, we have clients who have worn a sapphire in their engagement ring or in a right hand ring for 20, 30 years. And because the sapphire is not as hard as a diamond, they will get abraded or a little scratched on the top, but they're very easy to repolish. And so quite often we will remove the stone from the mounting and send it to a cutter to have it repolished. It comes back, we don't really lose much weight at all, and all of the life just comes back to the stone. So it's a wonderful stone to work with in so many ways. One thing that has been very, very on trend are the mois et trois rings. And this particular ring right here just is a fantastic example of a wonderful, wonderful pear-shaped pink sapphire along with a pear-shaped diamond. And that's been super popular. We also have had some young people come in. I've called this our Game of Thrones ring. And this is a pale green sapphire. It's kind of a moss green. It's very beguiling, and my daughter Lee, who works with me in the Oklahoma City store, actually designed this for a bridal client, and I loved it so much. I said, let's make another one for stock, and so we did. And anything else on here that you want to point out about the different colors of sapphire?
So can I jump in for a sec? Because one thing I really love is that you can use it as a substitute for other stones that might be the color you're looking for. But once you realize how many different shades you can get in sapphires, like I had a friend from high school come up to me and she said, hey, I have this ring. It was my grandmother's, it was an heirloom ring, but it was an iolite stone and she had cracked it.
Yes.
And so she had said, do you think you can get a replacement for me? And I said, look, iolite is pretty inexpensive. It's not super soft for an engagement, or it's pretty soft. It's not really great for an engagement ring. But have you looked at getting a sapphire that's the same hue? And that way you can kind of honor the concept of what that was supposed to be, but it's not going to be something you need to replace every year or two when you accidentally give it a thwack.
And I think the really cool thing about sapphire is that A, it comes in every color of the rainbow, but B, there is a pretty big price range. Not every sapphire in the market is tens of thousands of dollars. It's not all, cashmere sapphire that's unattainable. You can have an unheated stone, but you can also have a heated stone, which gives you just a little bit more breathing room when it comes to price point, so you can hit those expectations for your client or for what your wallet or your pocketbook tells you.
Tracy, you brought up something that's really, really important, and this pertains to sapphire as well as ruby, and that's heat versus no heat. So can you explain for the viewer what the difference is and why some stones are heated?
Sure. Okay, so let's take blue sapphire, for instance. Blue sapphires come out of the ground in all different colors. Some may be that really rich royal blue color that you want, and you're good, you're great. You don't have to do anything to that stone. Others can come out a little bit too dark or maybe kind of milky, in which case you can heat it to change the color. This is a very common practice in the trade. It is permanent and stable.
And it's an acceptable treatment.
Completely.
GIA recognizes it. Nothing strange is being done to the stone. It's not being fracture filled with a strange substance. It's literally the rough crystals or the cut gems are literally baked in an oven.
Yes, exactly.
And 95% of all sapphire and ruby or higher are heated. So it is common practice. The no heat is the more uncommon, and the no heat warrants almost double price, double per carat, yes, if not more, depending on the quality.
Just because having such a beautiful sapphire come out of the ground with fantastic color is so much rarer. So much rarer. Case in point, I happen to know that this particular bracelet which is a great example. It shows many, many different colors and hues of sapphire, and these are all unheated, which is really quite remarkable. But I think that that's a great point, because the price ranges can be vast, but there are just so many different wonderful choices for the consumer.
Yeah. And not only do you have, Kitt and faceted stones, sapphires also come in cabochons. You can get star sapphires and star rubies. So those are stones that have rutile inclusions oriented in a way that make this really phenomenal.
And a lot of men love gemstones that have stars. Star ruby, star sapphire, chrysoberyl cat's eye, which is a very, very tough stone. I love seeing all of those in men's rings, and they look great in white or yellow gold.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely have talked about sapphire. It's a very versatile stone, very popular in engagement rings. There's other stones that are very popular in engagement rings too. Kim Collins has a beautiful ring on her left hand. And since we've talked about blue and sapphire and yellow sapphire in different colors, I think logically, let's talk about emeralds, Kim.
Great, sure.
Kim, I want to know the story behind your incredible engagement ring.
Well, speaking of alternative bridal or color for bridal, I'm like the epitome of what people talk about. The reason I chose an emerald is because my three biggest loves, both of my sons and my fiance, are all born within 1 week of each other in May.
Oh.
And I am a professed green lover. I always have loved green gemstones. So it was the natural choice for me, because every time I look down on my hand, I look at this emerald and it makes me think of my two sons and my fiance, and I'm going to cry. No, but that's really why I chose this stone, and it resonates with me. I love telling the story. It makes me so proud, and it is so special to me. So that's what color does a lot of times for people. When they choose color and step out of that box, that's what makes it so special.
And it's interesting. Sometimes in our retail stores, the client will say, well, what's the best color? And honestly, the answer is the one you fall in love with.
Yeah.
Because people perceive color differently. And so a green that you love might not be the green that someone else loves. Yeah. And emerald comes in lots of different tones and hues.
Actually, I have something to say to that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Interrupt me.
So I got engaged with this color. It is a Chivor Mine Colombian emerald. Chivor is known more for the open or more bright colors, whereas Muzo, I guess, would be considered more of the classic green. So I had some of the emerald dealers in AGTA come up and ask me, why didn't you pick top color? And top color is an industry term, as Valerie was saying. I didn't choose Muzo or darker because this to me is my top color. It's just like art. It is the eye of the beholder. And this is the color that makes me feel so good and just speaks to me. So, and it still holds a lot of value.
Well, I love that. And I know that you travel a lot. You're on the road a lot. Do you wear your ring when you travel?
Oh yeah, I wear it every day.
And
except for I don't garden. I don't do cardio boxing in it.
Well, and word of note, let's talk about emeralds. Tracy, tell us a little bit about the crystal structure and the hardness of emerald.
Well, emerald is, about a 7.5, 8 on the hardness scale. However, it can be a little bit more fragile because of cleavage and its brittleness, so it is more susceptible to chipping. But that is something that you can address with your jeweler, in a custom store or something like you guys do.
Yes.
You'd be able to, if somebody was set on an emerald, to just protect it more.
I will tell on myself.
Yeah.
As a retailer, when we used to have people come in and ask for an emerald or something that can be a little bit more fragile, like an opal, for their center stone in their engagement ring, I would actually try to dissuade them from doing that. And I don't do that anymore because we've seen so many more people asking for color. And also there are ways in which we can set these gemstones that protect them more. I also think if you're a retailer or even if you're a consumer watching this, it's important to know how you wear your jewelry. And some people just wear their jewelry harder than others, right? I have clients who have worn their emerald ring or their black opal ring for 30, 40 years, and they're in fabulous shape. I have other clients who walk out the door, and it doesn't matter what it is, within 1 month, it looks like it was run over by a lawnmower, okay? And so I think this tray actually shows a good example of two rings. This particular ring, the emerald is completely bezel set, and so every single edge is protected. This particular ring, the emerald is partially bezel set, and the parts of the bezel are covering the pointed corners, which would be the most susceptible. This particular little ring with the heart-shaped stone has more than 3 prongs on it. It has 5. And so anytime you're working with a stone that is just a little bit more fragile, there's nothing wrong with encouraging the client, if you're doing something custom or you're modifying a mounting, to encourage them to either do a bezel set, a partial bezel set, or just more prongs. Where you might do 4 prongs on a diamond setting, do 6 to 8 prongs on an emerald or a precious topaz, something like that.
And that's what I did, a combination of both. I bezel set and then I did diamonds and prongs. I just wanted the extra security.
Exactly. So lots of creative ways to overcome those. And if you're just really, really worried, I know sometimes in our store, we will ask someone to sign a waiver, which just simply states that the consumer recognizes that there is a fragile nature to the stone. And most people don't hesitate. They're fine with that.
Here. Yeah.
Can we talk treatment? We can. Yes, one of you, please.
Okay, so, I did mention that sometimes emeralds can be a fairly included stone. One way to hide those inclusions or kind of mask them is to either oil it with a natural-based oil or a resin with hardener. So these are 2, again, very common treatments in the trade, definitely acceptable. They kind of rate those treatments by different levels. So if there's just a little bit of oil, it'll be minor. And if there's a lot of oil, you would call that significant on a lab report. AGTA vendors will always disclose if something is treated either with oil or resin. So that's nothing you have to worry about, no hidden surprises when it comes to the AGTA vendors. There is a big price difference between an oiled stone and a not oiled stone, and the amount of modification it's had, whether it's minor to, moderate or significant oil.
Well, emerald is my favorite.
Okay. And it's my birthstone too.
Green is my favorite color. And we talked about engagement rings. Kim has several pieces here out of her line that she's designed that are necklaces. And earrings. Can you talk to us a little bit about them and let the retailers that are watching get an idea of what you talk to the retailers when you're showing them your line, Kim? Because you have some beautiful pieces there.
Well, thank you. My whole line is focused on being able to wear every day. And so for that, I always, number 1, I showcase the gem. The gem is leading the design. But number 2, I always think about, I'm self-professed hard on my jewelry. And so I think about how I would be wearing it, and I don't want anything to happen to it. I want to be able to wear my jewelry and enjoy my jewelry. And so when I set things, I always keep that in mind. As you see on these necklaces, they're all pretty much bezel set in one way or the other. Same with the earrings. I do very little prong setting, especially on an emerald piece. In fact, thinking of my inventory, maybe like a diamond halo stud may be the only thing, which your ears are pretty darn safe. So that's an okay way to wear a prong setting in an emerald as well as a necklace. But for me, I think every piece of my inventory would have bezel setting around it just to keep that emerald nice and safe in there and to showcase the emerald. I think a bezel is a picture frame for any gemstone.
Oh, yes, it is. Well, Tracy, we've had sapphire, we've had emerald. Please select what your favorite might be.
How about tourmaline? I love tourmaline.
Yes, fave.
Yeah, let's go to tourmaline.
Yeah.
Tracy, I am so glad you wanted to pull out the tourmaline.
Oh my God, I love tourmaline. They are one of my favorite gemstones. They also come in many colors of the rainbow. It's not just green and not just pink. There's also yellows, There can be some like terracotta orange colors. They're fabulous. One of the things I like about them too is that they also come in a big range of sizes and price points. You know, you can get like beautiful bead tourmalines for fairly inexpensive, but also Paraiba tourmaline, a copper-bearing tourmaline originally from Brazil, is one of the most expensive colored gemstones on the market today.
I wish I had bought one 15 years ago.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yes. Them 15
Yes.
20 years.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be the next Paraiba too. So keep your eye out for the next find, the next hot gemstone. Yes.
I think tourmaline is one of my favorite stones to work with. It's such a beautiful stone. The different hues of green and pink, and indicolite tourmaline, which is a blue-green, or rubellite tourmaline, which is a red tourmaline. Just the variety of colors. And then you have the watermelon tourmaline, which people say where there's a distinct color change in the stone. Compared to other stones, how many calls do you get for tourmaline, just percentage-wise?
Gosh, honestly, we do have a lot of tourmalines in our collection. So it's one of our best-selling stones. Again, for all of those reasons, it comes in a variety of colors and a variety of price points. So a lot, and a lot.
It's very interesting, but when the Barbie movie happened, we had a lot of young ladies interested in pink jewelry, and this would be an example of a ring that we have made up more than once that can be an engagement ring or a right-hand ring with a pink tourmaline center stone and then just diamonds down the shank. And so it is interesting how media affects what color people want to buy.
100%.
And yeah, talk to us about the hardness of tourmaline.
So the tourmaline also has got a moderate hardness. It's about 7.5, which means you can wear it, but it's something that you'd want to just protect or be a little bit more cautious about for everyday use.
And are there any known treatments for tourmaline?
There are. Actually, heat treatment is also a common treatment for tourmaline. The interesting thing about this, though, is heat treatment doesn't really affect price negatively. For instance, Paraiba, that stone that I mentioned, the copper-bearing tourmaline, it is almost always heated, and it's the most expensive tourmaline out there. So that's kind of interesting. Whereas, with sapphire and ruby, the unheated stones do command a higher price. With tourmaline, the treatment doesn't affect the price.
And where do most tourmalines come from?
Oh, gosh. Tourmalines are grown in pegmatites, and that can be found
Okay. For those over the world who don't know, what is a pegmatite?
Are you going to...
I mean, it's a type of geological deposit. So a lot of pegmatites are where you find a huge amount of the gem crystals that we're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Beryl, tourmaline, all sorts of things.
And beryl will be your aquas and your morganites and your heliodores and your emeralds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Brazil, Mozambique,
Madagascar,
Namibia,
Nigeria,
United States also.
A lot of beautiful.
Afghanistan.
Yes.
Really everywhere. Although the type locality, Elbite tourmaline, was first found in Elba Island, named in Elba Island in Italy.
Yeah. One of my favorite trivia points, I think, Paraiba tourmaline. So you mentioned it was the name Paraiba is after the region Paraiba in Brazil. However, if you go to an old world map and you put the continents of Africa and South America, Brazil lines up perfectly with Mozambique, where that vein was discovered with Paraiba. So even though in our industry there's some discrepancy that Brazil, they should only be called Paraiba if they're found in Brazil, truly, millions of years ago, it could have all been the same vein. And I don't have a problem calling Mozambique and Paraiba as well, because I think it's one beautiful gemstone that bears both copper and manganese, and that's what causes the color to look so incredibly neon.
It looks like the most beautiful water in the Bahamas or the Caribbean that you have ever seen.
The prettiest ocean you have ever seen in your life.
If you don't know what Paraiba is, it's spelled Paraiba. Paraiba. So look it up.
Paraiba.
Look it up.
Well, tourmaline in general, very versatile. and we have a lot of jewelry here. If you want, Kim, if you want to talk about it, it lights up your showcase. The retailer will light up your showcase, and it's, again, a lot of it is bezel set. Kim, do you want to say anything about some of your pieces there?
Well, in general, there's a combination of pieces from Val and from all of us in here, but I think what this clip shows is the diversity of colors in the gemstone. And one of my fun takeaways from the bicolor tourmaline is I've literally been asked by somebody in the industry. So they're in the industry and they asked me if I glued two stones together in the bicolor. I'm not kidding. And
you made a doublet?
And I said, how cool is Mother Nature though? That's the best takeaway. How cool is Mother Nature that she can make a gemstone that has this whole array of tones in it in one piece. So,
and really what's happening here is that naturally tourmaline is more colorless, and the color comes from trace elements depending on what is in that growing environment, that pegmatite that we talked about earlier. For instance, manganese is the color causing agent for pink tourmalines, whereas iron and chromium for the green, and obviously copper for that blue tourmaline that we love, Pariba.
But if you're a retailer watching this, just know that it's not important to be a gemologist or to know all the science behind why something is the color it is. Have confidence in the color of the stone itself, because what sells the stone is its natural beauty, not some sort of trace element or mineral. And I think a lot of retailers are really, really gun shy about selling colored gemstones because they may not know as much about them as diamonds. And the diamond industry has done a great job from a marketing standpoint of educating the retailer, educating the consumer. And that's what's so wonderful about what we're doing with the AGTA today, because there are so many beautiful colored gemstones. You do not have to be a gemologist, and all of your trusted resources like Kimberly or Tracy or all of the members, John, the president of AGTA, are here to help you, and they're only a phone call away if you have more in-depth questions.
agta.org. That's our website. And it is a wealth of knowledge. It's the best place to go. I have been recommending to so many of my retail jewelers, if they have any questions, they have a customer coming in for a tourmaline or a spinel or a garnet, and they want to learn and brush up on a little bit more, I say, just go on there, give yourself a little refresher so you're confident when you go and show these stones to their clients.
100%.
Before we move on, Mother Nature is very generous to us with colored gemstones. I know someone has something in their hand. Monica.
I do. So
And this is,
I'm going to do a little show and tell. And this is really more of like what we do at the Arkenstone, but I get to play with the gems and jewelry so that I just get like a really wide range of fun around here. So I grabbed a bicolor tourmaline so you can see how that glued together gemstone really formed as one crystal. And this particular piece it has a little bit more inclusions than what you'd be looking for gem rough.
Hold it right down here since I'm in front of the camera. That's incredible. What a great specimen.
How the color can change throughout a crystal based on that solution that is present in that pegmatite deposit.
Fabulous.
Mother Nature is wonderful. Valerie, what stone would you like to highlight now?
Well, there's not a stone here that I don't love, but one of my personal favorite is spinel. So let's look at some spinel. Okay, John, you asked me about one of my favorite gemstones, and it's spinel. I was introduced to spinel back in the late 80s when we had a client come in and request a 1 carat round gem quality spinel. And I was in my early 20s. I had never heard of it before. And my employer told me all about it and sourced a beautiful red spinel. And I was hooked after that. And spinel comes in a variety of colors. One of the reasons I love it so much, it's singly refractive, which there are very few colored gemstones that are singly refractive. A diamond is singly refractive. So hopefully I explained this right. The light coming into the stone comes out in more of a straight beam of light and doesn't get as dispersed as other colored gemstones. And so you get a sparkle factor and scintillation in spinel that you don't get in a lot of other colored gemstones. It also comes in really, really vibrant pinks and reds. I personally love red spinel. I think it's more beautiful than a lot of rubies. And that's not to say anything disparaging about rubies, but we have a selection here that just shows you. And the other nice thing is that spinel is hard. It's 8 to 8.5 on the Mohs hardness scale. And so you can set it with confidence. I know our setters love it because it's really hard to break or chip a stone in setting. Clients can wear it every day. It's almost like sapphire. It's very, very durable. And you have a lot of color choices from blues to kind of these dusky blue-violet, really shocking, gorgeous pinks. I don't see a lot of green spinel, but
it is a very rare color for a spinel, so it's not on display here. It is available. The other thing not on display here is a cobalt spinel, which some of you may have heard of. It is a very vibrant blue color, almost like the color of Windex in its best form. This is an incredibly rare stone, though. It is rarely over, honestly, even a ½ carat in nice color. Yeah, so it's, again, a pretty exceptional collector's stone. One of my favorites is like a lavender lilac color. I am a sucker for purple. And this one is just, I mean, it's a really pretty soft feminine color that I love.
And price-wise, spinel hasn't changed a lot, like other gemstones. It's rare, so it's got more expensive.
Yeah, reds skyrocketed. You know, when I first got into the industry, maybe 10, 15 years ago, they were reds. You could definitely find a red, like pinkish red spinel over 5 carats, even over 10 carats. Now, honestly, it is very, very hard to find a nice, bright red spinel over 10 carats. Same thing goes for earrings. You know, I've had clients, you know, bought a stone 10 years ago, easy to find. It was expensive because it is a very valuable stone. When they go to look for earrings, it is just, and yeah, much, much harder to get. That is going to be true of all of the rare gemstones here, of course.
But don't be shy. Spinel in really up to 1-2 carat sizes, still available. Beautiful gemstones in different colorways to find. And just on the last note, a lot of people know this, but some don't. In the crown jewels in London, in the Tower of London, what was known as in the King's Crown, the giant ruby, when they finally were able to test with, is it spectrometry or spectronomy? In like the 1930s or 40s, it turns out it's a giant red spinel, not a ruby.
Historically, honestly, all red spinels were just called ruby, and that's the same for garnet, for spinel, kind of anything red. And then when the science of gemology kind of got its founding, they started to differentiate the two.
Well, you brought up garnet. Why don't we talk about garnet next?
Sure, we could. Do we want to touch on where this is from at all? Some of the spinels. I think just knowing that you did bring up some of it being more beautiful than ruby, but I always am. I think it's just so interesting that both Mogok rubies and Mogok red spinel come from the same locale, and that you talk about mineral elements. It's the same mineral.
They are. It's just one has manganese and the other doesn't. But otherwise, it's very similar.
So they're both, some top ruby and top red spinel come from the same origin in Burma.
And that is historically. Around 15 years ago, there was a large find of bright red spinels coming out of Tanzania, which is more of what we see on the market today. Sri Lanka, Treasure Island is also, you can find a lot of great stones from there. Madagascar, there's, a lot of great spinels.
Yeah, there's a great.
And in Vietnam, you can't forget about
Vietnam is your favorite, the lavenders, the pinks, a lot of the softer shades come from Vietnam. The power shades, Burma, and Tanzania.
You can get this like pure Barbie pink color from Vietnam that is really, really crisp. You were mentioning it's singly refractive. It also takes on a great polish, which means that it just, it never looks sleepy, if that's...
And just having said that, it's not hard to find smaller spinel in matched pairs. And so a lot of times, if you have a diamond that you're setting for someone, I know, for instance, in this ring, we did a pink spinel halo around the blue spinel, but we also use it in diamonds. For 3-stone rings, you can do a diamond and 2 beautiful pink spinel, or you can do a pink spinel halo around a diamond. It's fabulous.
One last thing, I love spinel for an engagement ring. And you talked about singly refractive. It is so brilliant. And I just simplify it for a lot of people. I just say it has the diamond sparkle factor. It really does. For a colored gemstone, you have the polish, you have the refractive index, everything is spot on. So you can kind of pick your color and go for that with a very unique engagement ring, and always have a conversation piece, because people will always be going, oh, what is that? It's so beautiful. So that's what's special about spinel.
Now, we love spinel. Now we'll move on to garnet, another extraordinary gemstone that comes in different varieties.
All right, let's take a look. Okay, so ladies, I have to admit, I love garnet, but it's the gemstone I know the least about. So I'm going to turn it over to you, all the experts. Kimberly, talk to us about garnet and what we're looking at here.
Well, I'm good at romancing this stone, Valerie. So this gem family is one of my favorite, because it's, in addition to tanzanite, it's one of the gems that I got into the industry with. I'm going to start with green garnet here, because Tsavorite garnet was discovered in Tsavo National Park in Kenya. And I'm super proud to say this. Our current AGTA president, Bruce Bridges' dad, Campbell Bridges, is the founder. He was the discoverer of this gem. So not only do we represent AGTA, an AGTA member's family discovered this gem back in 1967. I believe that was the year. And there's tons and tons of interesting information about it online. In fact, it was named by both Campbell Bridges and Tiffany and Company. So that is some very interesting historical information, besides the fact that this gem is spectacular. There's an industry argument of who loves emerald better or Tsavorite. It truly is what the industry is always wrestling between. And truly, I was a Tsavorite garnet person until I got engaged and I went with this. But, and Bruce had some words for me. But anyway, let's move into the spessartine family, or mandarin garnet is a certain color. It's when it's Fanta orange, that sexy, bright Crayola crayon orange is like no other. And you have durability, you have brilliance, you have all the great things in a colored gemstone. And there's not a lot of orange offerings besides sapphire and fire opal, which is a little more delicate. And then, of course, you have the more classic, let's see, do we even have, rhodolite garnet, red garnet. And red garnet is the most traditional. You think of garnet as your birthstone, but that red family opens up. You have the purpley reds, you have the Merlot reds, you have kind of every shade. And then it even moves into the purple garnet colors. And Tracy,
I love a purple garnet too.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love rhodolite. What's really nice about it is if you want a big cocktail ring, if you want something large, you can definitely do that with a rhodolite garnet in large sizes. They make beautiful beads too. So there's a lot you can do with garnets. But again, moving into the more rare varieties of the garnet family is the spessartite, the Tsavorite, and demantoid, another variety of green garnet. These, I will say, have gone up in value pretty dramatically over the past 10 to 15 years. One thing I would say to you, if you have garnet jewelry at home in the spessartite or Tsavorite variety, please go to your local store and have your appraisals updated, just so you're not shocked if anything happens, because the prices have really changed lately.
And on the note of appraising, I will say there's a saying in the industry, if you don't know your jewelry, know your jeweler. And so you don't want anyone appraising your jewelry. You really want to go to a store that has a certified appraiser, perhaps a GIA gemologist, even a store that's a member firm of the American Gem Society. So know your jeweler.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah. And one last thing, I keep bringing up bridal, but this gem is definitely on the thumbs up list.
What's the hardness on the Mohs scale?
7.
Yeah, 7.5.
It ranges depending on the different variety, but it is an excellent alternative if you want just a bright green stone, for instance, and you're not sure that you can handle an emerald ring. I would recommend Tsavorite hands down.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with orange. I keep going back to the orange because it just stands out. It's such a beacon in the night.
It is.
Right?
And does the spessartite or mandarin garnet come from any particular locale?
Several, actually. The original production was Namibia,
Nigeria, Tanzania. There actually is a very small, fantastic pocket that they found out of San Diego. So it's actually a sneaky American gemstone.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But the original Mandarin Fanta Orange was Namibia.
Namibia, okay.
Yeah. But right now, Nigeria is producing quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, you just taught me a little bit, and I love working with garnets. I've been working with them for years and years and years, and I will say this, I almost never have a garnet that I've set in a piece of jewelry come back because it's damaged.
Yeah.
And so they do wear very, very well.
And to the retailer, some of the names might be a little intimidating. Tsavorite with a T, and it sounds like an S, spessartite, spessartine. It's okay to say green garnet, orange garnet. It's okay to refer to the gems like that. And I think if it helps your sale and your confidence level, go for it. Call it a green garnet.
Absolutely.
A story later on about where it came from if they want to know.
And just like you said, if you need more information, go to agta.org.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. What's next?
Well, since we're kind of in East Africa, Kim, the obvious, yes, Tanzanite. Let's look at some Tanzanite with Kim.
Okay, Kimberly, we've got you all set up with Tanzanite. Take it away.
This is the gem that got me into the gemstone industry. I am super proud of Tanzanite. I still think it's one of the most exotic gemstones in all the gem families. It comes from one specific location at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro, about a 7 mile by 7 mile area. There's multiple pits there, but initially when Tanzanite was discovered, it was an alluvial stone, but since then it goes way deep in the ground. They're mining hundreds of feet into the ground now, but it is the most amazing complex color. And truly, it's a trichroic gemstone. It is the combination of blue, purple, and like a magenta reddish pink. And so when they cut it, having those three axes all in one, you get flash from all the different colors. It is spectacular. We've been hearing for years that it might run out, and that's truly a possibility because it's been mined for quite a while. I call it exotic, and I think it's a great gem for everybody to have in their gemstone inventory because there is the possibility that it could run out in mining. But throughout the years, there's been many different pockets that are produced, and you're seeing here like these colors, this pendant, that's considered top color. And it comes in a beautiful range. In here, we have some lighter tones, these violet. You don't want to drop it on the ground. It's a 6.5 on the hardness scale. So it isn't as durable as some of the other gems we've been talking about, but it is a beautiful gem. You just want to take caution, and it is heat sensitive. So meaning, this is the best description I give. You don't want to wear your Tanzanite ring, reach into the ice bucket for ice in your glass, and then run your hands under hot water doing the dishes immediately after. It is heat sensitive, and that could cause the Tanzanite to crack. But other than that, it is quite a durable gem, even though it's only 6.5. Anything to add?
No, I mean, like you were saying, this is, this kind of royal blue color has been traditionally the top color. But I will agree, you're seeing more on the market in those like lighter kind of lavender colors, which I actually prefer.
Love the
lavender. I love the lavender.
Lavender.
Which is
your batting lavender?
No, it's a fabulous gemstone. It is another stone that is typically heated, that evens out the color. It kind of brings out that blue hue. Again, it is quite common. It's got to be more than 98% heated on the market. Most everything is heated.
You are starting to see designers work with unheated Tanzanite, and some are more beautiful than others. I think it's just one of those things you're either drawn to or not.
Yeah, unheated Tanzanite can have more green hues. Usually it's a bit more gray, but you will see more of that trichroism in this stone. So you're going to see multiple colors when you look even just face up at one stone.
And once again, we've talked quite a bit about gemstones that are heated today. And with all of the gemstones we've talked about that can be heated besides sapphire, tourmaline, tanzanite, it's a permanent treatment, correct?
It is permanent, stable.
And so the straight heating is almost like making up for what nature didn't do in the ground. Would you say that?
And that's when one of the things I was going with the alluvial. So when they found it, they discovered it, and they found a purpley blue gemstone on the Earth's surface, heated by the African sun. But as they dig deeper, when I first got into the industry, I mean, they used to reference honey color. So the actual natural color when it's down in the earth is more of a honey color. And you can determine by the rough and that honey color how purple or how blue it's going to be once it's heated. But you're right, some of these they're almost mystical kind of tanzanites that are kind of a green blue with a little hint of the lavender in there. But that's extremely rare. But this is the common color.
Where I saw a lot of those too is in Vegas, the AGTA Gem Fair in Vegas last year. There were several dealers selling unheated tanzanite.
I'm going to be on the lookout for those.
Yeah, you got to check them out. Tucson too. Yeah,
it's going to be the best to find.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this would be a good point to just touch on that. For those of you who own retail stores, you might be wondering, gosh, where do I find some of these beautiful gemstones? And if you don't already have great resources like Tracy at Nomad or Kimberly at Kim Collins, Find Gemstones. What is the full name of your company? The very best place, the very best resource is the AGTA, either online or I keep the AGTA source directory at my desk, because this directory is not only alphabetical by vendor, but it's alphabetical by gemstone. So if you need a beautiful spinel and you have no idea where to go, you just turn to the section that says spinel. This is the one that says garnet. And you can go through and you will find a list of AGTA approved dealers who represent the gemstone you're looking for. And one of the things I know, when I first started going to the AGTA Tucson Gem Fair, it was 1993. I will never forget this. I had a budget of $5,000 to spend. I won't even tell you what my budget has been other years. Let's not talk about it. It's a sickness. It's a sickness. It's a good sickness. But one of the reasons I wanted to shop at the AGTA Gem Fair is, number one, it's to the trade only. A lot of the how many trade shows are there at the Tucson? I mean, there's over 60 shows running simultaneously. Some are in tiny tents along the highway. But when you shop at the AGTA Gem Fair at the Convention Center in Tucson, you are dealing with vendors who have been vetted. They are ethical. They source ethically. They are bound by a code of ethics, and they have to disclose any kind of treatment. Correct. You can probably, as a past AGTA president, you can probably speak to that better than anyone.
Well, one of the things and one of the reasons I have become a member initially and stayed a member for all the years in my business is the code of ethics. Mm-hmm. Nobody has a code of ethics like AGTA in the industry. And it represents who I am as a stone dealer, the responsibility all the way from the mine, all the way to the marketplace. I know I do my due diligence, and so do my friends, members, exhibitors in AGTA. There is a confidence. You buy with confidence, you sell with confidence. I know that's our tagline, but it is true. You are under an umbrella. When you walk into that convention center, you're safe. You're buying from reputable sources, and there is a paper trail, meaning there is an accountability trail that goes all the way back to the origin of the gemstones. And that code of ethics, one of the things I pride myself on, before we can even exhibit in Tucson, we have to sign our code of ethics. We cannot get a booth. We cannot exhibit unless we sign our paperwork. I don't know of any other trade organization that does that and really holds its members accountable. That's why I'm proud to be an AGTA member.
So you can shop in Tucson with confidence. You can use the source directory with confidence. and, rely on those suppliers to get the education that you need.
Yes, and speaking of Tucson, if you're trying to register and you have any kind of issue, you can send an email to info@agta.org and we'll help you with your registration. Also, Tucson we are the premier color gemstone out of every show there. But we also have AGTA Las Vegas, and
Las Vegas is so fun.
And that's coming in June, next June.
Yeah. And I love it too because, I don't know the retailers out there, how many of you go to the Vegas show? I have walked around that show. It is large. It can be exhausting. There's a lot of diamond jewelry. There's a lot of change. And just coming into the AGTA pavilion and seeing this bright color, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's exciting. At least for me, it makes me love jewelry again. Like, it's just fresh and fun.
I get so overwhelmed walking through a lot of the diamonds there. It's like I get into AGTA and I'm just like, oh, my eyes feel like they can focus on something specific as opposed to just getting
a little blank. It's a color break for the eyes.
And you know what? To that point, as a retailer, selling color is a great way to distinguish yourself. Every consumer can go anywhere in the world and shop for a diamond. And you can shop for a diamond online. You can price shop up and down Main Street America in whatever city you live in. But colored gemstones all look different. There are really no two that are exactly alike, depending on their size, depending on the color hue, depending on the shape. And with a little bit of education and just paying attention and some good buying, you're going to have better margins than any other category that you carry in your store. And as we all know, with diamonds, it's hard to make any margin at all anymore. And so this really can give you an edge for your business.
There's no better way to set your store apart from this store down the street than to carry color. And I always encourage my customers to buy with passion because you'll have a store owner. This is actually a true story. I have a store owner that loves orange garnet, spessartite garnet. And he always tells me, oh, my customers will never buy it. He initially started saying that, but guess what? It's the first thing he shows them. Oh, have you seen orange like this? Guess what? He sells the color. He sells orange over and over and over again because he's passionate about it. It reads on his face, it reads on his expression, and they want to embrace that color and that excitement. So there is no wrong color. You just need to start with color, and it will set your store apart. It will increase your margins, and it will add some passion and interest into your inventory.
Into your customers, something really beautiful, unique, and interesting to see and to learn about.
It's a wonderful way to start a conversation, even if you don't have the color mounted. The AGTA has many resources, plus you can find things on Amazon on how to display loose colored gemstones. And people are just really mesmerized by color. They do start a conversation. And I will tell you this too, no matter what your budget, always buy the most beautiful colored gemstone you can afford. Many, many years ago, a colleague commented to me because I didn't know you yet, and I didn't know you yet, but I was buying beautiful, beautiful top color from another supplier who has since retired. And this colleague of mine said, why are you buying from him? His stones are the most expensive. And I said, guess what? They're also the most beautiful, and they sell. Yes. Because when you have a gorgeous, beautiful, vibrant colored gemstone in your case, it sells itself. You put it on someone's hand, and they start moving it around, and they're sold.
It's true. Cutting's important and color. Those two in colored gemstones, the color and the cutting. But I also say you can have a weird, funky color, and if it's cut right, it can look phenomenal, where people are stopping in their tracks and saying, what is that? So sparkle in the case, to me, is one of the most important things. I think that sparkle factor, whether it be already, the 4 C's of diamonds are there, so people understand and buy into the cut. But the same goes for colored gemstones. You have to have well-cut gems for them to sparkle in your case and therefore sell. So.
Well, speaking of sparkles, Tracy, pick out the next sparkle that you would like to go over.
Just a couple more.
Just a few more. Let's talk about aqua and morganite.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to talk about the ever popular aquamarine and its sister stone, morganite. These are actually both part of the beryl family, which is the same family as emerald, which we talked about earlier. Pink, the variety is morganite, and aqua, I think we all know the March birthstone is gorgeous blue. One of the things that I love about aqua is also that it does come in a big range of colors, from kind of a greenish stone to that more rich blue color.
And I think for us on the mineral world, aqua is always seen as kind of a gateway mineral. People know it. There are a lot of minerals that people haven't heard of before, but aqua is usually pretty high up there, and you can get great ones for an affordable price. And I also think it's a great one to demonstrate what type of quality you need to be able to cut a gemstone. So a lot of people forget what was your gemstone before it turned into a beautiful ring. And so having some crystal examples that are also gem quality crystals, so you can see through them, they're transparent like a gemstone, can be also kind of a meaningful, interesting teaching thing, as well as a way to connect with people.
Yeah, 100%.
You called it a gateway. So that's a funny reference. I like it. I call it my steady Eddie as a gemstone dealer. So far in my career, I have never had like a aqua is super hot, but aqua is always there. I'm always steadily getting calls for aquamarines. It's a gemstone that resonates with so many people because it is so beautiful and so easy to wear. It got its name after water. So, I mean, the aqua seas, it's a Latin word. I can't remember what the word is, but it's whatever aquamarine derives from. And, but I think it's such a dreamy gemstone. And that's why, I mean, celebrities and princes and princesses have worn it for years. In fact, Prince Harry gifted Meghan Markle Princess Diana's her aquamarine ring on their wedding day. And so that, I mean, just like a lot of things in our industry, like the Barbie movie, when she got that ring, immediately we had calls for emerald cut aquamarine because it's just a beautiful ring.
Aquamarine looks great on every skin tone. And it's really interesting that you said it's your steady Eddie. We sell at least one aquamarine ring a year, but honestly, we sell more like 2 or 3. But you have to have the right aquamarine ring. And what I mean by that is, at least in our store, the simpler the design, the better. I think if you have a really beautiful stone, it doesn't always need a lot to show it off. And in Oklahoma City, we're not a big yellow gold. I mean, we're not a big white gold store. We sell more yellow gold. But interestingly enough, the aqua sells better in white. And then, yeah. And so,
It showcases the stone a lot. I also like the contrast, though, with yellow gold in the aquamarine color. And another thing to add, aquamarine comes in a variety and a range of saturation points. Some people really like that almost barely there whisper of blue in their aquamarine because the crystal itself is very clean, so you can get that scintillation. But then the notorious Santa Maria aqua is the most saturated, almost like a lighter shade of sapphire at times. And it is such a beautiful color. And that's really the most expensive and coveted color.
It's really hard to get that strong.
It is extremely hard. And so, like we've mentioned, other gemstones, Paraiba, tourmaline, Paparasha, sapphire, in their own families, the Santa Maria would be that of the aquamarine of the beryl family. So, but the range, and you have something like rustic beads that are so pretty.
I love the beads. Yeah, because beads or cabochons, this is something you can do with material that isn't necessarily, pure
or gem quality,
exactly.
But it is still
but you have
beautiful quality. It's still there. Yes,
And aquamarine is a bit of a step up from blue topaz. And so,
for sure,
obviously, as a retailer, we have jewelry with blue topaz, amethyst, citrine, but many of our clients want something that's finer.
Yes.
And so aquamarine gives us that opportunity to sell something in a beautiful blue color, as you said, in a range of saturation rates that is rarer and a bit more expensive, but I think it's desirable and sellable.
A more interesting heirloom.
It does.
It's really something that you can pass down because it is rare and beautiful.
And we've talked about treatments before, but you can find a lot of aquamarine that's natural, untreated, no heat treatment. heat treatment sometimes adds beauty and kind of clarifies the crystal a little bit, but it doesn't change the color.
And it also doesn't affect price, like many of
yes, correct.
So heat or no heat for aqua, I think is
Yeah.
So we've got one gemstone left.
Guess what it is?
The king of gemstones?
Yep. Ruby.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so I said that ruby is known as the king of gems. And the reason I say that is because out of all of the colored gemstones, ruby in its finest color, which is a true straight red, and you all can speak a little bit more to that, it's very, very rare. It comes from very few places in the world, and no new resources have been found. So incrementally, over the last 100 years, the price just continues to go up. So why don't you give us a little education on ruby, where typically the very finest comes from, hardness, just all the things.
You know, that is a great question. First, I do want to point out that ruby is red sapphire. So it is the red variety of corundum. It does come from just a handful of places, notably Burma and Mozambique. Yeah, those are the two main ones.
There's some Tanzania. Yeah, Tanzania has some few. Yes.
There's, the ruby that comes out of Africa that I have seen and worked with tends to be paler and more of a violetish pink.
Yeah, I would say that's correct. I think the term we hear in the industry is pigeon's blood. And although I don't always, what I've seen as pigeon's blood as on a lab report isn't always what I think is the most beautiful. I want to see that clear red. As you notice in this shot, these gems are red. And that's what I think of as ruby. I think a lot of times they can get overly dark. Sometimes they're more silky, more pink, and sometimes they're cloudy. I've heard that before from retailers that I just am not in love with them. I think for me, I would always recommend a retailer and the end consumer to buy something smaller but crystal than buy larger and something that we call sleepy, which means it's just not as sparkly and scintillating.
And I want to say on that same note, buy the color that you like, that you love, that works for you. Don't buy on a piece of paper. Don't buy on origin just because you've heard one origin is better than the other. It really depends on the individual gemstone.
Totally agree.
A lot of ruby can have violet or purplish secondary color. Some can be more brown or orangey brown. Yeah. And the ruby that is the most highly prized is truly what we call a straight red without other modifiers. And ruby has been mined, my understanding, in the Mogok Valley in Burma for the last 5,000 years. And so there's not a lot of material left because of political issues in Burma. Not a lot of material can come to market. The Mozambique material, how long has that been coming on the market now?
That production, I think 15 to 20 years, that really hit. And it has emerged as the forerunner as the ruby source worldwide, I guess. The crystals are very clean. So right away, there was a difference. Whereas you're talking about pinky purple, I think the Burmese material lends to that side. I think the Mozambique goes a little more of the orangey brown in its more saturated forms. But the crystal, sometimes the Mozambican material reminds me of spinel. It is so crystal and scintillating. So you can get that in ruby. And if you're not seeing that and you're not able to buy that for your store, you're not looking in the right place. That's another reason to go to AGTA and come to Tucson or Vegas and shop some of the best dealers in the world. Because
I was going to say, because there's so many experts.
There's so many.
Yes. And I will just say this. In both of my retail stores, we don't sell as much ruby as we sell, say, blue sapphire or tourmaline. And part of that is pricing. I'm just going to say that to purchase a really, really fine color ruby that is 2 carats or larger can be very, very expensive depending on the clarity, depending on the color of the stone, depending on the cut, depending on whether it's heated or unheated. And so consumers can get a little discouraged. And so it's really important to, as you mentioned earlier, showcase something that might be a little bit smaller but more beautiful than something that's big and kind of sleepy. I think it's really important if you have a client coming in and asking for a ruby to just do some qualifying and ask them some questions to find out what they know about ruby, why they're interested in ruby, so that you can really do the best job of finding a ruby that is perfect for them.
Do they want bigger, showier, maybe with more inclusion, or smaller, brighter, that's cleaner?
Finer, within a budget.
Yeah.
And budget, I know, is a very tough question to ask. I think trying to get to the best point where you can ask something like that is important, because when you're working with dealers, they're going to ask you that question because ruby is all over the board. The same with emerald. I'd say those are two, sapphire too, but it's a little less difficult, I guess I should say. But identifying where they want to be spending. And, you know, you brought up a good point, Valerie. Ruby is a harder sell, and any store I work with, but if you carry nice rubies, you have beautiful pieces of jewelry, you don't have to have the largest collection. Every store should have ruby because everyone knows what ruby is. There are some great milestones, like the 40th anniversary. I find that to be probably one of my strongest requests because they're in a spending bracket. By the time they hit that 40th anniversary, they're in their 60s to 70s, and they have money to spend. And a lot of times that is a great sale because they have money to spend. They have a little bit bigger budget. They know what they're looking for. It's a romantic sentiment. It's commemorating. And the last thing I wanted to say, ruby's symbolism is eternal love. And I think there's nothing more romantic than talking about that to the client because of all the gems, that symbolism and that sentiment is so there.
You are spot on. And the other thing, I don't like to talk about investment that much when I'm speaking with clients because I'm not a financial advisor, and I certainly wouldn't want to imply to someone that they're going to have some, huge gain. However, we know for a fact that ruby, fine ruby, and this is true with any gemstone, always buy the finest quality that you can afford. Any fine quality gemstone, but especially ruby, not only holds its value, but steadily increases in value simply because we're running out of them. And the truly, truly beautiful specimens are hard to find. And so a person who purchased a 3-carat ruby 20 to 30 years ago, my gosh, what that stone is worth now is unbelievable. It's outperformed the stock market. And so what I find is my serious collectors are very interested in ruby. And so if you're not selling ruby and you do have high-end customers, this is an area where you could educate them because these gemstones only appreciate through the generations. And I like to talk about generational wealth.
Yeah.
So
I think that all the points were made. It's just an amazing gem. It's one of the big three. And you already have an opening for color with ruby, emerald, sapphire. People know what they are. They've known their whole lives what they are. And so this is the one that may be a little more difficult, but make yourself a challenge. Let's see how many rubies you can sell and who wants to buy them. Right?
Yeah.
We started our conversation with sapphire, and I think it's appropriate we're ending in ruby. But a few questions I'd like to ask. There's a lot of retailers that may be watching. Maybe it's a retailer that's been getting their color already set in jewelry, or maybe it's a retailer that just needs to get their toe in the water. What advice as a retailer would you give to your fellow retailers to get into the mix of the color gemstone industry? What's your advice?
Well, I think that one thing is if you haven't ever been to the Tucson Gem Show, and especially to the AGTA trade show at the convention center, it's really something that you must do. Not only for the education, but your mind will just be blown at all of the different varieties of gemstones that you see, all of the different colors of tourmaline and sapphire, and also layouts and how things are cut differently. It's also a spectacular way to shop for your clients. When I go to Tucson, I'm texting my clients and sending them pictures of things that I think they would absolutely love. And sometimes I sell something right on the spot. Other times I have to wait and see if that item is available after the show and if it can be memoed in so that my client can see it. So Tucson has, for a very, very long time, been a very useful selling tool for me. But also from the educational standpoint, just speaking with the different purveyors, such as you two ladies, that is where I have learned the most information, because I'm not a gemologist. I'm very, very knowledgeable, but I'm not a gemologist. And I can always learn and fill in. And I think it's important, besides just having finished color, to have a few specimens of loose color that you display in your case alongside finished color, because everybody loves custom. And even if you're a jeweler even if you're a retailer who doesn't have an in-house jeweler, there are many, many jewelers who work for the trade out there. And you can get these pieces made up, and people just love having something one of a kind. And then the loose tells a story with the finished piece. And once again, buy something that you find beautiful, buy the very best you can afford for your budget, and buy from an AGTA member, because they've been vetted, they're ethical, and if you have any issues at all, they're going to stand behind you.
And if you get a call from a customer, how do you answer that call when it's not Tucson or Las Vegas time? How do you source that color gemstone?
I go back to my Bible, the AGTA directory, because, this is a funny story. All my favorite suppliers for years and years and years, I had in a Word document. And then my husband decided I had too many files on my computer, and he took it away. Shame on him. Without this, I cried anyway, but basically everybody on this list was also in this book. And that's not to say that I don't have fun going to some of the other gem shows and picking out things here and there. But if it's an important stone, I'm definitely going to AGTA. And if I'm not at the show, I use the directory, because once again, you can resource by the vendor's name. You can also resource by stone. You need a ruby, you just go to the ruby section.
And what I love too is they are listed who sells calibrated stones, who sells one of a kind, who sells beads. So depending on what your project is, you can search not only the gemstone, but the type that each vendor offers.
100%.
I'd also point out that is available online.
Yes.
You never need to lose it again.
So I'm still a paper person. I know you can go online, but what if my computer crashes? I gotta have my book.
I'm a little like that too now. I am too.
Well, you come to Tucson or Las Vegas and we give you a copy. And speaking of Las Vegas, Tracy, do you want to say a few words about the Las Vegas AGTA Gem Fair?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, again, it's one of those, mid-year, Tucson's at the very beginning of the year, and I know a lot of people put their jewelry in production for the holidays kind of towards the middle of the year. So Vegas is a great time to restock the supplies, the stones that have already sold when you were in, the ones that you bought in Tucson. And so you can see just so much there. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Tucson, and it has a special place in my heart and Kim's heart, and it's the heart of AGTA.
It's my favorite show.
So, Kim, would you like to?
AGTA Tucson, by far. If you could pretty much ask everyone in AGTA, they'd say Tucson is it. Dealer after dealer always talk about it. And it's our show. We put it on at the convention center, always at the beginning of February, but it is something so special. And I'm going to tell you, my first year ever attending was 1996, and I've been every single year since. But I was just an up-and-coming gem dealer. I didn't know anybody in the industry, but I will never forget. So it's in a convention center, and the main hall floor is the gem area. And when you walk up to the window and you can peer down at the gem hall floor, and all you see scintillation, you see all kinds of activity. There is a vibe, a feeling you get that is overwhelming. It's very exciting, and it's all these gems and gem dealers working together. It is the place to be. And I'm going to tell you this, every manufacturer in the United States that's a big name brand, every big designer in the United States, any mom and pop that want to jumpstart on their year, they are at Tucson. And it is the place to be. If you haven't gone to the Tucson show, you need to go. One, for the experience, but 2, you will get the best color opportunities of your entire year there. So I couldn't recommend it more. It is, again, my favorite time of year. Tucson's such a cool city.
Beautiful.
And it's unlike some of the other trade shows that are very high energy and exhausting. I find Tucson almost, yes, it is. You're inspired, you're excited about business, you have things to bring home to your clients, and number one, you are under the umbrella of AGTA. There's nobody more responsible in the industry than our association. So I'm really proud to be a member.
Talk about ethics and the fact that a retailer can come and buy with confidence and then sell with confidence. Talk a little bit about AGTA ethics, what you and Tracy have to sign every year to be an AGTA member. Let the retailers know that what is really behind the AGTA brand.
Well, the reason I became a member years ago was because there was no other organization that actually backed what they said with a code of ethics. And AGTA does that, and they hold us to the flame. I'm an exhibitor there, and I cannot get to my booth unless my paperwork has been signed saying I follow AGTA's ethical practices, responsible sourcing, and it holds you. Those are all encompassing under the code of ethics that I must disclose the treatment, and anything I want to talk to my clients about, it has to be truthful, and I have to have a conscious chain of supply within my sourcing. And again, it goes back, I don't find that there's any other association that really holds you to the flame as AGTA does, and that's why I am proud to be a member. And I know everybody else, for Valerie, who's a retailer that buys, she feels confident buying. Tracy's an exhibitor. Monica is an exhibitor and a member. And I just think there's a pride within our AGTA community. And I even liken it to a family. As cheesy as that might sound, we are really within one. And there is strength in numbers, because if somebody in AGTA is doing something less ethical, we know, we find out. It is a big, beautiful world, but it's a small world too. And we find out. And you can get kicked out of AGTA. If you're not following proper practices, you can get kicked out. And that again is accountability. And that's why I love being a part of this association. Yeah.
Thank you. I can't speak highly enough of that. I'm a former member, former exhibitor. I love AGTA. And when you go into AGTA, you know that what you're buying is something that you can be proud of to sell your customer. And we're in a happy business, so we want to sell them only stones that have happy histories. I believe Monica has a closing question before we say goodbye to everyone.
Sure. What's your final closing thought on getting to spend time dealing in color?
Final closing thought?
Yeah.
Well, as a designer, not just a retailer, it just gives me pure joy. My favorite days are the days I get to pull out the gemstones I've bought and design something new and put it in my design lab for my jewelers to make something out of it, and then seeing it find a home, right? And everything eventually finds a home. I will say this, a colored gemstone piece that you make up, or a colored gemstone that you buy, it may not always be the first thing to sell, but just be patient, because everything does eventually find a home. And one of the things that's nice about going to the shows is every year you can kind of see how pricing is. Pricing never goes down. And so frequently I have to adjust the price of something I might have purchased 10 years ago, and I just haven't set it yet, or I haven't sold it loose yet, but I adjust the price and eventually it sells, and the profit margin is tremendous. But my favorite days are just the days I get to play in my color.
Yeah. I love looking in our safe. I mean, we have stones of every different color and shape and size, and I think it's just fabulous. I also love, we do buy rough stones, and so I love hearing from our buyers and the owners of the company, because they hear stories from all over the world. These gems come from everywhere, so I get to learn something new, and I get to, discover new varieties of stones and new color tones, and I think that's really fun.
Like Tracy, I love opening up my safe and look. We are in a very happy business, and it's not monotonous because we're looking at all the colors, and it's revitalizing, it's energizing. There's so many words I could use to describe it, but I love buying, and I love falling in love with the gemstone, bringing it back, adding it to my inventory, and watching it go to its new home. There's many that I've nearly cried. I have cried. I've cried. I cried because I wanted it so badly. I loved it that much. But that's what we do. And the greatest thing is that passes along. That's good mojo, good vibes, good energy. It's going on to the end consumer. And when I get to do these trunk shows, seeing a person's face light up at the gem that I bought and I worked hard to find, and seeing them be the forever home, there is nothing more pleasing to me. I feel it's full circle. I love what I do. I feel so fortunate. I get to travel around the world and meet all these interesting people, both from overseas to the end consumer, and bring a piece of that overseas and that history and the lore back.
And every gemstone has a journey, and it's a great story to tell. And stories are what sell jewelry and gemstones.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our conversation in color. And I would like to congratulate all these ladies and their wonderful insight. So everyone that's in the audience out here, join me and give them a big round of applause.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank the Arkenstone for hosting us here.
Thank you. I'm just glad that I had an excuse to have you show up with all of your jewelry so that I got to play around with it. So I feel pretty lucky to have you guys.
And Krantz Creations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our sponsors, Krantz Creations and the Arkenstone.
Thank you, ladies.
We
Have
will
a great
see you at
day.
the gem fair. Yeah, see you in Tucson.
See you in Tucson.
See you in Tucson.